Pete Yorn, album number 7, seventh studio album, Caretaker, is out. I read that you went to the studio, wrote the song, recorded the song in like these single day sessions. Is that right?
Some of them were written before, but a bunch of them we wrote that day and recorded them that day, yes.
Did you come to the studio with ideas in mind when you were doing that spontaneously? Because that's kind of...
There's a lot going on in my life, and we'd get a melody going, and all of a sudden these lyrics would be pouring out of my head, and I would just latch on to that. And I had a good partner, this guy Jackson Phillips. We kind of had a really good flow in the studio, and we were able to kind of keep supporting each other step by step, and just happened kind of really kind of easy, you know?
Kind of natural.
Yeah, fun. It was fun.
You do have a lot going on. You've got a 4-year-old daughter. And it's been 3 years since your last studio album, and you've got a lot of different projects that you're working on at any given time, or so. And so going out on tour, this last night was the Hawthorne Theater. That was your final on the solo You and I. And then you're going out with the band. What's sort of the different feel of solo tour and then band tour? Did you kind of work up to the band by going solo first, or was there an idea in mind behind that?
I just feel like, you know, with the new record out, I want to just support it for a little bit with some, you know, full instrumentation. But the solo shows, you know, there's one rule for the solo acoustic shows: there's no set list allowed. So every night we have to kind of create it in the moment. And it's just kind of, you know, I toured for so many years, you know, with my band and set lists and our repertoire. But when I just play alone, it just opens me up to, you know, a lot more places that I can go. And so the set list is very different every night, and I take requests and kind of talk about, it's much more of like a storyteller's type show, and it's really fun. It reminded me of like why I love, like, started playing guitar in my bedroom when I was a kid, you know, what I loved about it. And but now I'm excited for the first band tour in like, I think 4 years, something like that. We start in November in D.C. and work our way across the country. And Jackson, who produced the record with me, he has a band called Daywave, and they were like, "We'll back you up for this tour if you want." So they're my backing band. So it'll be kind of fun. I'll be like kind of different interpretations of my old songs and then all the new songs and stuff like that. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you took requests when you're out solo. That's kind of cool.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
This is, I think, your 4th time in the KINK studios. Last time you were here was 2016. I want to say around 2011. And then 1999 was a pizza party. And I heard you say that KINK was the first radio, not just pizza party, but first radio station you visited ever? Is that right?
Yeah, back in the day, you know, like I was signed to Columbia Records in '99, and right before my first record came out, they were kind of sending me around, like, doing a little introduction of what my music was. And I remember this was the first radio stop that we did. We flew up, and we were going to do, you know, maybe Seattle too, and some other areas up in the Pacific Northwest. And I didn't know what to expect. And I walk into a little conference room, and there was pizza for some staffers, and it was me and my guitar. My buddy Walt, at the time, we had this little tiny bass amp. And we were going to just play, like, you know, it's our new song. I got a song called Life in a Chain. You want to check it out? And I remember doing that, and everyone was really nice. And then I think they added the song after that. And so it was like a good opportunity. You know, I always remember that. 20
years playing music for a living. How much has changed? Both, I know there's a lot there, but both as you approach music and going out on tour and just the industry itself, and you don't have to answer all that, but what stands out to you as something that's changed in the last 20 years?
Internally or externally?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, you do this for a long time, and there's ups and downs, and just like any other job you do, you know, you got to keep yourself interested in it. And luckily, you know, music I have a strong kind of connection to. But you know, I'm just so happy and grateful to still be able to play. Like, at the very least, kind of everything's gone super digital, you know, everything's like, what's real anymore? How do you even measure success or measure who's, you know, getting anything out of your music besides you? And, you know, I guess at the end of the day, I just feel really lucky that I could just take this guitar and show up in cities and people will come hear the songs, and whether I have a new record out or not, and that makes me feel good, and I think it's good for everybody because we kind of share a moment, and some people reminisce, some people have new moments, and at the end of the day, that feels real. It's like a piece of wood in my hand, that's all.
So now with social media, you can find out a lot about artists. You're giving me that look. Don't worry, nothing horrible.
Oh, don't mind my look. Don't look. They mean nothing.
But I notice in 2 photos on your Instagram page, you're wearing a Ducks shirt. And then I also noticed the Raiders hat. So when I was told that you're in backstage watching a game, I knew it was the Packer-Raider game. But how does a guy from New Jersey attach himself to teams on the West Coast? That's a non-music question for you.
Yeah, since 1982, I think I've been into the Raiders. I was never into the Giants. And my older brothers, I guess they're a big part of it, They're a good deal older than me. And so they were like into the Raiders, and I'm their little brother, and I worshiped them. And I'm like, all right, Raiders. But they were fun. Then I think the year after I got into them, they won the Super Bowl, and I'm super loyal. So I just been stuck with them. And the Packers are killing the Raiders right now, by the way.
Sorry.
When I got on stage for soundcheck, the Raiders were up 10-7. And then when I came back, they were down like 28-10 or something, and I just scored again. So, yeah. But the Ducks, another thing. I am a real Ducks fan, and we got into them, I think, because the Raiders were so bad, and I went to Syracuse, and their football team wasn't doing anything special, and the Ducks got really fun a few years back when Chip Kelly was coaching, and it was just like, look at this team, or like a video game. They would just move so fast, no huddle, go for 2 after the first score every time, and then a few years later, Marcus Mariota showed up, and it was just fun. It was like fun, like get into a team that we loved, and I love birds as well. So the Ducks mascot doesn't hurt. And I was saying yesterday I was driving from Spokane along the Columbia River, and I had the game up on the dash. I was watching the road, but I had the Washington Ducks game on, and that was a great comeback. And I was like, I had Washington State across the river, and I was kind of like flipping them the bird. I don't really have anything against Washington, but I liked for the Ducks to win, so that was cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in this morning and sharing another moment with us. Let's hear a couple more songs from Caretaker.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on Sunday, you guys.